I've been in healthcare now for just over a decade.
Sorry, can you pause for a second? God, you were breathing so loud.
You can hear me breathing? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. It's like you're talking at all. It's like Darth Vader.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, is this better?
You're not breathing.
Yeah, I am.
Yes, it's better. Okay, now that the Darth Vader has stopped, you can please continue. It's fine. I was like, that's all we're gonna hear. Welcome to the Bunkroom Chats podcast. I'm Elena, also known as Betty.
Tim.
And this is Tim, also known as
Tim.
And this week, our guest is, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Paul Kavanaugh O'Keefe. I'm a nurse, been working for over a decade. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us.
I have a lot of editing to do. Whew.
I think Betty took some drugs before this.
Some happy pills. Took some happy pills. Medicine is okay, folks.
Well, thanks for joining us. And I'm sorry, did you say it's Paul?
That's right, yeah.
Paul? Okay. So, Paul, what is it today that you would like to discuss on the podcast?
Well, before we go into that, what is your history, if you're okay talking about it, with mental health? Have you ever struggled with your mental health? Do you have anything that you would want to talk about on a personal level? And this is why I ask the questions. And if there's any connection to what you do for a living, obviously that would be helpful for our listeners and viewers.
So everybody's had their run-ins with mental health issues, and myself included. I grew up with a bunch of people who have had difficulty with various substances, various chemicals, a lot of anxiety, depression, and a fair amount of suicide as a result of the combination of the alcohol, drugs, and mental health problems. So I've seen a fair bit of that. Moving into as I'm sure you were, the baseline rate of mental health issues within healthcare is just hovers right around double the rest of the population. And obviously it has been a large issue within that community, that group, for a very, very long time. Moving into COVID, it was just massively exacerbated.
Do you have any theories on, like, from your own experience or stuff that you've seen of why? Because we've talked about on our show, we've talked about with guests and by ourselves how as first responders we've seen a great number of people that we know deal with mental health issues, both before and after taking this job. And obviously working in healthcare, it's very similar to what we do. It's not exactly the same, obviously, but it's in the same. So what do you think is contributing to? Is it the patients? Is it the hours? Is it?
It's patients. It's hours. It's time from family, but it's also the being surrounded by the worst things in people's lives. That's their day to day is the worst thing. Is the absolute worst thing that's going to happen to almost all of the people around you every single day. And that's where you live. You live in a world surrounded by chaos and disaster, and death. And
very upbeat, but yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's true. It's a little depressing to think about it that way, but it is accurate. Yeah.
Well, I've broken more ribs than any professional fighter that I'm aware of, right? And it is a inherently violent, bloody profession. That's just what it is.
I have not broken any ribs.
You haven't done CPR?
No, I haven't. I have not broken any of my own.
Not my own ribs. Other.
Went right over your head.
There's something seriously wrong with you today. He's talking about the morbid death stuff, and you're just cracking up.
This is how I cope. I cope with laughter. But no, what you said is very true, and we've talked about that. How we, like, our whole job, at least on our end, is we show up on the worst day of people's lives. Like, if we're there, you're having a really shitty day. You know, like we don't stop by to say happy birthday to people. So yeah, I think that definitely, at least for us, I think it takes a toll after a while. You know, it's the constant, you know.
Some are good, some are bad. We don't have a very good winning record when it comes to codes in the field, and that's just something that you come to terms with. You're not going to save everybody, and you're not going to save a vast majority of them.
Yeah.
Because it's all time-based. What do you have? 8 minutes without oxygen to the brain before you're a vegetable? And, I mean, we've talked about it before, how much time it takes from somebody to go down in cardiac arrest to be found to be in cardiac arrest, to that person then calling, to the dispatcher dispatching, to us getting up and going, to us finding the house, to us. I mean, that's all adding up. So the time is a big factor and always working against us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're slightly better in hospital. I think we got about. I think the general in hospital survival to discharge is about 50% better than field arrest.
That's just not fair to me, because I would like some of that. Good outcome to come my way.
I mean, you're looking at 12% versus 8%. Like it's miserable either way.
And that in itself can get a little grueling over time. The fact that you got into this profession to help, and it's really tough. I mean, the odds are against us in those circumstances, and it adds up, because it's a call that we can run every single time we go to work. It's not one that's like a once in a lifetime call that's going to stick with you forever.
I mean, I had a
in a way they do stick with you forever, because they add up, they compound. Yeah,
I mean, I had a stretch where I was running at least one cardiac arrest like every single shift, and I don't think I saved any of them. Like, that's just unfortunately how it goes sometimes. So we had a guest a few weeks ago, TJ Freer, and his wife Sarah, and they talked about, he's a fireman, and he talked about what he does to transition from being at work and in that environment to being home. And he talked about the importance of changing out of your uniform and getting into something else, like civilian clothes, to feel like that full transition of work mode and home. So how do you see that as something that you need to do? For your mental health, do you see that as like a transition you need to make? Is it easy for you to just go from, okay, I'm here working, to that mental load is gone?
There have been times when it's been more difficult. For some time now, it really hasn't been. I have a relatively long drive to and from work, and so transitioning to and from, it's my commute time. I'm not my environment. I think one of the differences for me versus you guys, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I'm operating in a totally different environment, right? So, like inside the hospital, whether I'm in a helicopter, whether I'm in the hospital, whatever I'm doing, I'm in a totally different environment than home, than being out in the regular world.
We're in a different environment every time we show up.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is you guys are operating within the standard world, people's homes, and I don't do that. So it's easier. Yeah. I think it's probably easier for me to transition out, because I'm not walking. When I walk into my home, it is not in any way similar to what I do.
Yeah, you have home field advantage.
No, but that actually makes sense in a way that I hadn't thought of. Because we do encounter a lot of very traumatic things inside of that environment that's supposed to be safe. So yeah, that does kind of make sense.
Well, it's not supposed to be safe. There's
Your house?
my house, yes, but their house, you don't know. I mean, they tell you from day one, you always keep one eye open. So his
No.
environment is controlled. He works in a hospital,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that I see as home field advantage. You know, you
No, and that
control
makes
the
sense,
lighting,
yeah.
you control the,
Yes.
you have all of your instruments and tools. You know,
Well,
we
so I mean, hear it, but the vast majority of problems within the hospital don't happen where they're supposed to, right? A bathroom floor is a bathroom floor if it's in a hospital or in somebody's house. Yeah, I do.
But
have
I'm hoping that
closer.
all the lights work. Because that's not always the case.
That is true.
in
That is
the
true.
field.
That actually just happened to me in a call the other day. That's true. But
You
no,
hope.
what I meant was we're going into these people's homes. We also have homes. Those homes are supposed to be a safe space. Or not for us in their house, but that house is supposed to be safe for them. If they're going through something like that, if they're going through something traumatic,
No, I get what you're saying.
do you?
now.
Yes, that. Thank you. If
It's supposed to be safe for them.
yes, and I think we kind of like internalize that, and we go home and we look at our house as our safe space, but it wasn't safe for them, and we're remembering all these things that can happen in that safe space. Like I don't look at any part of my house the same way since like, you know, like every time you run like an unconscious person, where are they always?
Unconscious.
I said, where are they always? They're always
I am between
like,
the toilet
Yep.
and the bathtub.
they're always in between the toilet and the bathroom. They're in the worst possible place to extricate
And on the
them.
third floor,
Yes.
by the way.
Yes, and there's no easy
Like-
way to. And this is
There's no
like,
feasible way. Yeah, the staircase is,
like that's what it always is.
the house was built in 1842. Everything's broken. And of course, they kept every newspaper since the Great Depression.
Yeah. So
There is a couple of rules in EMS, like nobody ever gets sick on the first floor.
yes. Yeah.
And also nobody ever gets sick that's under 300 pounds.
Also, also true. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very accurate. But we've strayed a little bit. Mostly my fault. But I know you wanted to talk a little bit about working through COVID, and I know that
It was a hell of a time.
Yeah, that was a crazy time to be in EMS. So what was your experience with COVID, and how do you think that shaped your view of mental health moving forward?
So, I mean, COVID was a very, very abrupt change, right? Like, it left work one week and came back to work, 4 or 5 days later, and all of a sudden everybody has a brand new lexicon. Like, what the hell is a PUI? And there's this continuous changing with what to do with PPE shortages, this massive misunderstanding of how it is we're supposed to treat the thing. If you treat it like a normal pneumonia, then you kill people. You intubate them early, they flash and die. There was this really, really tremendous stress, and there were people quitting left and right, and the whole thing was kind of just a mess. Not enough equipment, not enough people, not enough anything. Overcrowded everywhere, and inability to understand the disease process, treat it appropriately, and people dying left and right. I mean, pressure and nonsense, and these people dying in pure isolation was horrible. I mean, a 50-year-old guy saying, I don't want to die alone. That's the last thing he says before we intubate him, and then he dies alone 12 hours later. Like, it's, you see one thing after another like that. I mean, and silly stuff, right? Like, I'm pushing meds for 2 different codes at the same time in different rooms, just, with lines running from a single IV pole so that I can push meds into 2 patients at the same time because we didn't have enough people. So dealing with all of that and seeing all of that, really, really tough people who've seen a tremendous amount are all of a sudden having huge trouble. I'm sure that you saw the same kind of thing in your line of work. For myself, at one point, I didn't go home for several weeks just because I was, scared I was going to give it to my kids, so I didn't go home for weeks. I'm working in a COVID ICU, and so I went from a hotel to work and back, and that's what I did. It was tremendously isolating for everyone in a number of different ways, and then you're surrounded by death and chaos. So it put this extra pressure on everybody, and it's borne out in the numbers, right? We have this baseline rate of anxiety, depression, PTSD. That's approximately double the normal population, right? Every single one of them, I know for within my profession, it was about double, and after COVID, that tripled. From that, so going from, a general population rate of PTSD is like what 2 to 3%, and post COVID for people, frontline healthcare workers, it jumped to almost 30%. Similar rates of increase for anxiety, depression, all sorts of just emergent healthcare issues.
Did you see that in people you work with personally? Like, absolutely. Did you actively see? Yeah.
I did. Seeing the pressure, right? From the beginning, these. At one point, there was this young guy. He was, I don't know, mid 20s or something. So he got assigned a COVID patient. He went absolutely ballistic, and he was saying that he's not going to take the patient. He's quitting anyway, and he's saying this in front of all of these elderly nurses who are at much greater risk than himself, and just seeing people fold under that, and then watching these people who've dealt with nonsense for decades, all of a sudden like they're talking about how they've had to start talking to somebody, they're taking medication, they've never had to do that before, just lots of them.
So I think you kind of answered this question, kind of, when you were talking about the 50-year-old that died alone. Were you, just out of curiosity, in the hospital setting, were you guys seeing a lot of middle, I'm curious about the age range, because a lot of what we were seeing was the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
Were you getting a wide variety of death from this?
It's a terrible way of putting it.
Well, no,
it's an absolutely fair question, right? Because there was an inclining curve across the age band, right? So the youngest people, generally speaking, having it the easiest and an increasing rate of death as you get older and older. But one of the interesting things one of the interesting sequelae of that is that the hospital did become saturated with these long-term COVID patients who were typically like 50s, because the older ones tended to die somewhat faster, the younger ones tended to bounce somewhat faster. So the saturation of people tended to be, it was not 100% obviously, but most of the people saturating the ICUs and just staying sick for a month, a month-long ICU stay with this pneumonia, they're 50, 60 years old, right? Like they're older.
So, so you're seeing a lot more of the middle age, keeping it for a lot longer than, like you said, the kids bounce back quick and the elderly. Yeah, I get that. That makes good sense. I guess my follow-up would be like, how often were these people, or the 50-year-olds and stuff, were you doing the thing where you had to push meds twice for two people, or was that just you're dealing with EMS coming in and you still got these patients over here? And
I guess maybe I should talk a little about what I was doing at that point. So I split my time basically between two different roles. little bit of blurring some other things, but mostly I worked in a COVID ICU, or I worked with
ICU.
the rapid response team, right? Working in the COVID ICU, you get these long-term sick people, and then some percentage of the room, which varied depending on where exactly you were in like the COVID timeline. Some percentage of the rooms turned over very fast, right? People getting better or dying. And then you had your long-term sick occupying a half to 2/3 of the unit, whatever it was. So sometimes, nothing would happen at all. Other times, just the entire shift would be tremendously dynamic there. Working with rapid response, the hospital was overcapacity of what it could deal with its normal resources. So they were doing things on regular hospital floors that are not typical. They had people on huge amounts of oxygen, far beyond what they would have on a typical hospital floor. Monitored basically by this small roving team and calling emergencies. So we saw a lot of decompensation on like the regular hospital floors because we kept them there for so much longer because we didn't have the bandwidth to upgrade them. So
I got
I
had missed the spot where you were on the ICU. That's my fault.
Yeah. Way to pay attention. So how did that impact how mental, if at all? Because I know after COVID, mental health in our field the response to it changed a little bit.
The response to mental health?
The response to mental health issues.
What?
Just like waiting for me to say something. How did you, if at all, how did you see a change in how staff was treated with respect to mental health after COVID? Did anything change? Were there more programs? Was there more of a response to, hey, we need to support people a little bit more?
The answer is both yes and no. There were there was functionally a lot of kind of lip service to it, but it's difficult to take that seriously when you're being asked to do a lot with very little. Like you're reusing your N95 for a week, and the people telling you to do that and saying good job haven't been into the hospital in 2 months, right?
Yeah.
Like remote support without equipment or actual physical support is pretty tremendously hollow. So like that whole heroes thing, a lot of it just wound up feeling very, very hollow.
Did COVID and how your job changed during COVID, did that change how you view what you do now? Or do you think that was kind of like an isolated, everything was chaotic and crazy and now it's kind of back to normal?
I don't think there is a normal. I think it's an evolving thing, and there's always there's going to be another thing, that will pop off at some point, right? So no, I don't think it's. I think that it was a temporary stressor on a already overloaded system. So I don't think it changed the job. I think that the job remains the same. Just
adapts.
Yeah.
Did you feel a great deal of support from, I don't want to say your bosses, but like the hospital itself? Whereas we could say our division or department stepping in, answering questions that we have as field providers. I mean, a lot of it was very unknown at the time. Like you said, what is a PUI? What is this? What are we going to take this home to our families? This, that, and the other. Can you help us stay in a hotel so we don't do that? Did you feel any support, or did they offer any for the ones of you that did stay and fight the fight?
So I don't think there's a blanket answer there. I think the answer is kind of granular, right? Like the national nursing groups put together programs for people to stay in hotels so they didn't have to go home. Like they were putting nurses up in hotels so that they wouldn't have to go home if they didn't want to. And that was an existing program. And and with respect to like education and knowing what was going on, there were dedicated groups, both kind of interesting. They divided themselves up kind of into medical and surgical teams, and they gave different advice, but really working hard to provide good information, good advice, and how to deal best with the situation as it presented itself. So there were some things like that. At the same time, there was a visible lack of support from huge pieces of the administration within the hospital. Just absolutely, just crickets for 6 months. Like thing launches in the beginning of the year, and you don't hear from them again until late summer, early fall.
Yeah.
So I think that I don't think there's a blanket answer. I think some people and some groups and some teams did tremendously well. So in supporting one another and supporting teams, and other people just vanished. So
yeah, I get that. I guess I'm trying to look at it in a way like it's a lot easier to go onto the front lines and go into battle, or stay as one of the ones that's going to fight this fight instead of ones that are bailing out. If you feel like you have some sort of support behind you, or if you feel like somebody's got your back on the, maybe if it's not an upper level, maybe it's just somewhere within your chain of command. Be it as it may, I don't know what a hospital chain of command looks like, but if you feel there's some sort of support on your end for doing what you're doing, it makes it a lot easier to go to work instead of I have to do this to provide, so here goes another fucking day in this hellhole. You know what I mean? Like, especially during a time when it's challenging your mental health on a level that we're not ever used to.
Yeah. Some people did really, really well. The leader of the rapid response team, she was amazing. A lady named Janet Thorne. She was absolutely fantastic. Providing equipment, ride support, whatever you needed, she was there for you. And there was something to be said for just like the feeling of making a difference kind of thing, right? Because you were so short of everything. Working, and just weeks at a time, nonstop.
Yeah.
But did you actually feel like, for the entirety of it, did you feel like you were actually making a difference? Because I know for me that, I don't know, sometimes it feels like you're just spinning your wheels when it's something like that. But I guess we don't see the outcomes. We just transport. So
I mean, it really depends, right? I mean, like, what do you want out of your, what is a good outcome for you? If what you're looking for at the beginning was, you want your patient to survive, well, that wasn't going to happen, right? Like it wasn't going to happen. But if you wanted somebody to not die alone, you wanted to make them as comfortable as they could for the rest of their life, the next 12 hours, I think that's worthwhile. And that was, that's worth showing up to work for.
Yeah. That's a nice sentiment.
Yeah. I mean, that makes it sound like, you knew some of these folks coming in weren't leaving.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just, you don't realize how devastating this pandemic was. Because, I've had it twice and it didn't do it didn't do anything. But it was completely devastating to a lot of folks, and since our lives were so saturated with it, with dealing with people logging ourselves in the back of an ambulance with them, or being in the ICU with them, I guess I didn't see as much death as you did, that's for sure.
Well, I think we have kind of a it's good and bad, because a lot of the time we don't see the outcomes, right? Like we take care of them on their way to you, and then you take care of it the rest of the way, and we don't have to. And I think that's, in some ways, that's a blessing for us. because we don't have to deal with that part of it. But also there's that question of, did we do enough to help them? Did we do enough to save them? So I think it can go both ways.
Yeah.
You know.
I guess if they make it to the ICU level, though, they're already pretty bad off.
At the height of COVID, if you were there, you were not in terrific shape.
Mm-hmm.
With respect to getting them to the hospital, though, at the outset, less was more, right? Like, if you didn't, the less you touched them, the less likely you were to kill them.
Yeah, I feel like toward the end of it, it was just like we were supposed to be very hands off. It was just like, just get him to the hospital, just like
Absolutely.
take him, get him to the hospital.
Oh yeah, we would run people with SATs with O2 SAT crazy low. They would have to have a very low SAT with tremendous tachypnea. Like the number of markers that you would have to hit before you'd intubate was huge. Whereas with a normal pneumonia, you hit one of them and you're just going to tube. Right, like you can't support their O2 SAT with external oxygen. You take over, and we didn't do that. We let them run a low SAT until they were, massive tachycardic into the high 30s to 40s, and the tachypnic to the high 30s to 40s, and tachycardic, and just generally massively labored, unable to talk. So, and then you take over. You leave it far later than you would with any other pneumonia. Because if you tube them early, they would just flood.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask, what did it mean to flash when you said you tube them early and they flash? It's just that they get
flash pulmonary edema. So so one of the first early intubations that I saw was in the ED at a hospital center. Patient came and tachypnic, low SAT, whatever, and went to intubate this patient, and relatively uncomplicated intubation. Intubated the patient, inflated the balloon, and then almost immediately foam is jetting out of the top of the tube. Just absolutely flooded, and we saw that repeatedly, like just this massive flash pulmonary edema. And this massive decompensation secondary to the intubation itself. So like the actual intervention designed to save them was pushing them over the edge.
Huh.
Learn something new every day, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, I do remember how we were supposed to be a little bit more hands-off towards the end, but I didn't know that was happening. Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So what do you do now to support your mental health and make sure that when you come home, you are your best, most stable self? Anything.
Honestly, just the biggest thing that I do isn't, it's at work, right? Like just, I'm less attached to outcomes. I'm not. I'm just not, right? Like I am attached to how well I do. I'm attached to whether or not I gave somebody their best shot. And if I screw that up, then I have to, do something to decompress, go build something, go, take my kids out for a treat, do something that relieves that mental stress. But generally speaking, the best thing for me is to, screw up as little as possible. Give people the best shot possible. Because I don't control whether they do well. I control how well I do. So
that's a good thing to keep in mind. We talked a lot about personalizing. Was that last time? Two episodes ago?
Yeah, span of control.
Yeah, we talked about like personalizing patients and outcomes, and I tend to do that a lot. Just like looking at the patient as, I a lot of times when you're with a patient, you're also with their family. So, and that's the big thing about what we do too, is we're in their homes, we're with their families, and it's hard to have a negative outcome and not personalize it when you're in their You know, like you're in their space, and you have to.
Absolutely. No. It's one of the things. I have tremendous respect for you guys for that, because I have a huge amount of difficulty with families, right? Like, yeah, if mom bursts into tears, because her kid died, like that's hard, right? I have difficulty with that. I did the best I could for the patient. Patient died anyway. I'm comfortable with that. But mom crying over her dead son, like that's harder,
I think for a lot of us in what we do, I think the families are the hardest part, because the patients, it's like you said, like you did what you could, but it's you have to deal with the aftermath of that, and that every difficult call. I think I said this on another episode, but every traumatic call I've ever had, it stands out in my mind because of the family's reaction.
A lot of those become secondary calls. If we run a cardiac arrest or something like that, where it's either a young person or what have you, and mom is distraught, we've called the code. It's we're done, and we've done the break it to me gently. But now our focus is on her.
Yeah.
And we may have to transport her because she's just in no state of mind or what have you.
Yeah.
True.
And it's kind of I think it's kind of our job too to kind of, in fact it is. I remember, people talking about that there's a whole part of our training that's on how to talk to family about, how to what's the word? Not gracefully.
Break it to me gently.
Yeah, that's not one word, Conrad. That's many words. No,
gently.
No, tactfully. I really need to hit you when I have a realization. But no, like there's a whole part of our training that focuses on how to tactfully talk to families and explain what happened. And like the language you're supposed to use. And I know recently I had a tough call with a kid who a little girl who passed away, and I know that the EMS lieutenant who was there, actually, I was very impressed with how he talked to mom, because he was very straightforward. He didn't use flowery language. There was no "she has gone to a better place." It was, "I'm so sorry to inform you, your daughter has died. This is how we figured that out. This is what the next steps are." And I know how difficult, especially seeing all the people around there, that must have been for him to do, and he did an absolutely amazing job. But it's those parts of the job that I think we don't really talk about as much. We talk about the patient so much, and we don't really talk about the families, the reaction that the families have, and how we internalize that too.
So let me ask you.
We asked the question. No.
In hospital, with families, right? There's this huge focus on on code status. What are we gonna do? How much we're going to do, and what the family's wishes are. So generally speaking, by the time the patient dies, there's been some preparation, unless it's a sudden cardiac arrest in the hospital. So how much focus is there on code status or family's wishes? Okay, I just don't know how that works.
Yeah, so we, especially if it's an elderly patient, we always ask them, even in cases where they're just sick and not actively dying, do you have a MOLST? Do you have a DNR? There have been cases, I actually was on a call like this, where the family said they don't want to be resuscitated, and we said, okay, where's the DNR? And they could not provide it. They said, oh, it's downstairs somewhere. Okay, we need to see that in order to stop our efforts. And they couldn't find it, and they were actually yelling at us that, what are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that. He doesn't want that. But we have no choice. We have to have that paper, and if we don't have that paper, it's our job to try to save that person's life, which can be very difficult in times when people, Yeah. And I've also had people change their mind. There's people who have a DNR. There was one guy who was actively decompensating, and he had a signed DNR, and we were like, okay, do you want us to honor this? He was surprisingly very lucid, but he was like, no, I don't want to honor that. I want you to do everything you need to do, which was good. Then he did actually take that out. he did die. Doesn't matter.
But he was already dead when you said he was actively decomposing.
Decompensating, not decomposing, you idiot.
Decomposing is later.
Oh. Learn something new.
How would he be talking to us if he was decomposing?
You've never seen a patient with maggots coming out of their... Yeah.
My very first day in Carroll, we had a very disgusting patient like that, and she had she had open sores everywhere.
I'd call that decomposing.
And there were maggots coming out of the sores, and somebody actually put a mask on me while I was moving her body. Everybody ran out and threw up. It was just me. It was just me and the lieutenant. And we were the only ones who stayed in there and got her out because everybody else threw up.
Kudos.
Thank you. I actually felt very proud of myself, and then I was very nauseous the rest of the day. But some calls are disgusting.
So, Paul, what is one thing that you've learned or can bring forward or would like to instill on others from this time and moving forward? As you said, we're always evolving and we're adapting to the way life is now. Anything in particular that stands out to you?
The biggest thing for me is just the recognition that healthcare jobs are they do put tremendous psychiatric strain on the people who do them. Working in a job where you're surrounded by that kind of chaos. Looking at the impact of COVID, it is clear to me that these jobs, healthcare and in healthcare, that put that psychiatric stress on people who see death and chaos. They do damage to those people. They do increase anxiety, depression, PTSD, all of this. And so when that pressure is ramped up, things get worse. And there needs to be a recognition of that in any, whether it's a mass casualty event or a national disaster or whatever it is. When that pressure is ramped up, there needs to be a recognition of the impact that has on the staff dealing with it.
I feel like a lot of what we do in the field now has not just been shaped or, evolved from the time where there was just so much unknown. And it was scary. Like, when you were talking about just going back and forth from the hospital to a hotel so you didn't bring it home, I totally identified with that because I didn't go to a hotel. I did come home. But I constantly worried because I had just had a newborn at the time too during COVID. And
was that during COVID, really?
Yeah, Penelope was born towards the end, but it was still very scary because COVID was still very prevalent. Even though we kind of had a grasp on what we were dealing with at this point, towards the end, we knew a lot more information than we did in the beginning. It was still very scary to think because I didn't know what her little immune system could handle when it came to terms. Like, I knew we would be okay, but there was a lot of unknown with an infant still. And it seemed at the time like it did become an elderly disease, that it was killing off a lot of the elderly folks. So I thought, everything was going to be, but it was just, I identified with that, like, should I be coming home? And should I be, potentially bringing this deadly thing, because we just didn't know. So anyway, all that to say, a lot of the unknown became more clear, and we were able to move forward, adapt, overcome, and I hope the hospital setting has gotten much better for We can hope, right? Like, are you seeing? are you
He's like,
seeing,
no, we can't.
Are you seeing, the good side of bad at all? Because one thing that I did try and look at was from this horrible time that we made it through. A lot of good things also have come from it.
Yeah.
Even if it's something as simple as I don't have to wait for half an hour to get a haircut anymore. I can just sign up on the app and I'm ready to go. But like, as far as our jobs go, there was some good that came out of this.
There are some changes in workflow, and in terms of surge things, that the hospital is significantly more nimble. Right, like we did have a surge early, just a couple of weeks ago. And the hospital did deal with that much more nimbly than it would have pre-COVID. Opening surge areas.
But I think kind of because this is a mental health podcast too, I think it's important to talk about, like you mentioned how there's some conveniences now, right? Like the apps and you know, contactless delivery and all that stuff. But I think all of that stuff has been really, really bad for people's mental health because it's so isolating. Like you don't have to talk to somebody for weeks, and you can get groceries, and you can get, you know.
Yeah, but on the other side of that coin is it really ramped up telehealth.
True.
So like, while you don't have to be in person, but you still get, like, especially with therapy sessions, like
that's true.
All telehealth therapy is what I do right now.
I do all telehealth.
And it's just as good, I think, as being in person. And it's at the drop of at your fingertips. Most anywhere.
So many people have social anxiety now because they're so used to being at home or behind a screen that they can't, like, go out and actually talk to you. They have, like, legitimate social anxiety just from
Fair
going
enough.
up and ordering something at a restaurant, like stuff like that. I think that's how we've lost a lot of.
Lost a lot of, as much as I missed the beer deliveries from COVID. There is a lot of missing social interaction now, and seeing a lot of that in schools in particular, right? Those missing years of socialization for children, for school age children during COVID. The rate of social anxiety in those groups, it's massive. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think we can. Was there anything else that you wanted to bring up or talk about before we start to wrap up on the?
I'm good.
Did you want to praise either of the hosts for the wonderful question?
I mean,
laughing during some of the most horrible stories.
It's really, I need to talk to my therapist about that because it just is getting worse.
It's how you cope.
It is. I laugh so much.
I understand. I've coped in the past by just trying to find humor, but I don't laugh uncontrollably.
I do. It is uncontrollable for me. Like, I literally can't control it. And you are part of the problem because you make me laugh. So don't even. Thank you so very much for being our guest this week.
Yes, thanks, Paul. This was eye-opening and some. Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah, it was very interesting to get a different take on things.
I never knew all of the stuff that was going on in the hospital setting, outside of outside of the ER, really. I mean, because that's all
we saw. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do thank you for coming on, taking the time, and talking mental health with us, especially during such a crazy time where mental health was definitely at the forefront.
Yep. And as always, if you would like to be a guest on our show, like Paul was just a second ago, you can email us at talkroomchatpodcast@gmail.com. You can also visit us on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. We're everywhere. You're on
all the sites.
All the sites.
Thanks again.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.